A biting wind carved through the towering pines, each gust rattling the window panes of the lonely cabin tucked deep in the Rockies. Inside Garrett, the solitary forest ranger, savoured the last warm sips of his coffee while devouring the final chapters of his favourite novel. The fireplace crackled, sending waves of heat across the wooden floorboards, and the faint tang of pinewood smoke swirled in the air like a comforting old friend. Outside, the forecast had warned of an overnight snowstorm, and the gust, tugging at the shutters, confirmed its arrival. Garrett leaned back, the warmth seeping into his shoulders as he took a slow breath, until an unexpected sound shattered the silence. His back, still humming from hours spent, hunched over the pages. Garrett set his book aside and tilted his head towards the window. There it was again, a soft, plaintive cry floating on the icy breeze. His instincts prickled. He slid across the hardwood floor, pressed a hand against the cool glass, and peered into the gathering darkness. The shadows among the trees blurred into black, but on the porch steps, something moved. Boo. Was it a trick of the light or something in real need of help? A flicker of the porch light revealed a crouched bobcat, its golden grey coat streaked with darker bands and matted from travel. Its amber eyes held him in a silent plea, body trembling with cold. Dangling beneath its ribcage, a swollen belly hinted at pregnancy, or perhaps an injury too painful to bear. The creature let out a low, grating sound, paw lifting tentatively, as if begging for shelter. Garrett felt his pulse quicken. Had he ever seen desperation shine so plainly in a wild animal's gaze? Every ranger's training screamed caution. Wild cats, even those that look hurt, can lash out. Yet another voice whispered kindness, urging him to open the door. He shrugged into his thick jacket, yanked on gloves, and stepped into the howling night. The wind stung his cheeks as he eased the door wider, and the bobcat didn't hesitate. It padded past him, lean legs shaking, and crossed the threshold into blistering warmth. Phoo. Whoa. Garrett barely noticed the draft close behind him as he pressed a hand to his racing heart, door clicking shut. Inside, the bobcat lowered itself onto the worn rug near the hearth. Firelight flickered across rippling muscles, casting long shadows that danced on the log walls. Garrett crouched by the kitchen archway, watching as the animal curled into a tight ball, seeking every ounce of heat. He rifled through his supplies, fishing out a piece of roasted chicken saved from last night's dinner. Setting it gently on a plate, he nudged it toward her. She lifted her head, nostrils flaring, but ignored the offering. Hunger, he realized, was secondary. She craved warmth above all. Garrett retreated to the far end of the couch, careful not to startle his visitor. He wrapped himself in a wool blanket, eyes never leaving the bobcat as she dozed by the flames. Outside, the wind hammered the cabin, snow slapping windows in furious sheets. Garrett stoked the fire, tossing on extra logs to keep the hearth roaring. Inside, the bobcat's breathing evened, tension draining from her taut muscles as she succumbed to safety. He wondered what ancient instinct drove a fierce creature to trust a human stranger. Dawn arrived under a muffled hush. Snow lay thick as frosting against every surface, and the world beyond his windows felt miles away. Garrett woke to a gentle, rhythmic rumble, not the wind, but the bobcat herself. He sprang from his blanket and crouched by her side, astonished to hear purring from a wild cat. She lay on her side, belly swollen until it brushed the rug. His breath caught. She was pregnant. Heart pounding, Garrett grabbed the emergency radio, but the storm had severed his link to the outside world. Now, he was truly alone, with one decision looming. Was he ready to help when she needed him most? He didn't have to wait long to know what his nights would hold. Garrett shoveled snow from the door, stacked extra firewood, and checked the stove's fuel. Inside, the bobcat chose a corner of the living room, her eyes half closed in weary anticipation. Garrett spread an old blanket for her, tacking it neatly against the cold floor. She glanced at him, caution and gratitude warring in her gaze, before settling down for the long wait. Outside, wind screamed. Inside, tension hummed as every second felt pregnant with possibility. That evening, the storm softened to gentle flurries, and the cabin filled with high-pitched cries that tugged at Garrett's soul. He peered around the corner to see the bobcat, head lowered, giving birth to 3 tiny cubs. Their wet fur gleamed dimly by firelight. Eyes tightly shut, voices wobbly with new life. The mother licked each in turn, her tongue soft as snowfall, nudging them toward her warmth. Garrett pressed a hand to his chest, breath hitching at the raw intimacy of the scene. He backed away, heart full, but stoked the fire to keep the room snug for this fragile family. Over the next days, Garrett fell into a careful routine. At dawn, he refilled the bowl with clean water and a sprinkle of meat. The bobcat, still wary, sniffed but left most uneaten until her strength returned. The cubs, silent and blind, wriggled at every turn. Garrett documented each milestone, tiny paws stretching, tentative mews growing stronger. When the storm's curtain finally lifted, he reached for his radio again. Wildlife experts urged a simple plan. Once they were old enough, release mother and cubs back into the forest. But Garrett hesitated. Could he let go of this bond? Weeks melted into months. The once empty cabin now echoed with clattering little paws and playful squeaks. The cubs tumbled over one another, tousling collars and chasing shards of sunlight on the floor. Anne Garrett christened their mother Luna for the way her amber eyes glowed by firelight. He built a secure outdoor enclosure, bristling with climbing posts and hiding spots so the cubs could practice stalking and pouncing. Yet every night they returned, 4 silhouettes curled by the hearth as if no colder place existed outside. Neat! Spring unfurled its green beneath melting snowbanks, and Garrett sensed the time had come. He fortified his courage, stepped into the clearing air, and unlatched the enclosure gate. Luna was first out, her sleek coat gleaming, muscles coiled, and ready. She paused by the threshold, tail flicking, then met Garrett's eyes in a silent farewell. With a final flick, she led her cubs into the forest's edge. Garrett watched until they vanished among budding pines, chest tight with joy and loss, his cabin suddenly empty, yet forever changed. As the door clicked shut and silence fell like the softest snowfall, Garrett leaned against the frame, hands in pockets, heart full of the bond they'd shared. That cold winter night, neither man nor beast could have predicted the friendship that would bloom. Have you ever crossed paths with a wild creature in need? Offered a hand when instinct screamed otherwise? What moments reshaped your understanding of nature's fragile balance? If your story stirs the heart, share it. Let's remember that sometimes the wildest friendships grow in the most unexpected storms. Months later, as the forest greened and wildflowers carpeted the forest floor, Garrett found himself drawn back to the spot where Luna and her cubs had slipped between the trees. Each morning, he creaked open the cabin door and stood on the threshold, scanning the shadows for movement. Sometimes, at dawn's pale light, he spotted a flash of gold fur weaving among the birch trunks. Luna on a silent patrol, her eyes catching his for a heartbeat before she melted away. Those brief reunions, as fragile as gossamer, filled him with quiet wonder and a steady reassurance that their bond endured beyond walls of wood and stone. In those moments, he realized that true rescue doesn't always end with goodbye. Sometimes it blossoms into mutual trust that neither time nor distance can dim. With each glimpse, he felt the forest's pulse more keenly. Breaths of wind through leaves, the distant call of a jay, the soft padding of paws on moss. And he understood that his role had shifted, not as keeper or captor, but as guardian of a promise made on a freezing night when kindness triumphed over fear. What silent vows have you kept in nature's name? And how have they shaped the stories you carry home, Sam?